Hey y'all, I am back. It is me. Um, I have so many thoughts on this, but I didn't talk about it because I like to flesh out my thoughts thoroughly before I speak on anything. And then on top of that, I was trying to see how this thing plays out before I said anything. And I think it has came and it's slowly burning because the ridiculousness of it all just shows the hypocrisy on the so-called left side. And of course, I'll be getting into it in regards to what I mean by the hypocrisy on the left side. So the topic at hand, as you can see the title, is Maga Communism. I know, it's like, what? Huh? ¿Qué? ¿Qué pasó? ¿Quizá? Like, what? Yeah, Maga. Yeah, this is the era that we're living in because words don't have definitions. Anything means everything. Upside down world. So like, yeah, MAGA communism. Duh, right? MAGA communism failed before it even lifted off. Why? Why am I saying this? It's a fail because MAGA stands for Make America Great Again, a slogan from the 2016 presidential campaign of Donald Trump. America was only great for those who benefited from America, right? We always talk about classism. We always talk about hierarchy. Who benefited the most from America? I mean, look at it. A person like Donald Trump was pushing off this slogan. Who is Donald Trump? Donald Trump is a trust fund baby.
How are you?
Donald Trump is a failed businessman. Donald Trump is a racist and a sexist and a rapist.
Well, I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
Donald Trump has been in and out of lawsuits and bankruptcies. Donald Trump is a former, one could even say failed, talk show TV host. That's who he is. He made his bread and butter off of embodying that white male 1960s authoritarian, my way's the highway, embodying that Archie, you know, that show, All in the Family type of archetype, embodying that I am man, I am white man, hear me roar.
We're going to enjoy ourselves.
But what was his reputation? What was his accolades? What was he known for? Corruption, exploitation, lying, theft. So it's people like him who support the slogan, Make America Great Again. Whether they were in his presidential cabinet, whether they were his donors, whether they were fans, it's people like him who benefited from America. No different than slave owners, no different than sharecropping, which is familiar with the word shareholders. I wonder if there's some type of connection between those two words in the business sense, but nonetheless, exploitative. No different than landlords who are currently exploiting us. Those folks he was speaking to when he said Make America Great Again. And he spoke to those folks so much so that when he became president, he made sure to give those folks tax breaks. You know, the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, those like Donald Trump. Donald Trump may not have the same money as an Elon Musk, but they definitely sit at the same table. That's why when Trump was president, he didn't bring back any of those Rust Belt jobs, now didn't he? But he sure made sure to make sure that his friends and his cronies got that dividends. So that's what MAGA stands for. MAGA became a cult. MAGA merged with QAnon. MAGA was the image, the national image during the January 6th catastrophe. And I only say it's a catastrophe not because it's like 9/11, it's not comparable, But it's a catastrophe because to me it was just like grown ass men and women, white men and women having a tantrum. To me, it was no different than kids going into, I don't know if they still have it, and if they did, not post COVID, not my black ass. But it reminds me of like when you go to Chuck E. Cheese and you take those kids to the plastic ball thing. It's like a pool, but instead of water, it has balls, little plastic balls, and the kids would just like dump themselves in that. To me, it was that. It was like grown ass white disenchanted folks having a spiral of emotions, right? It was just an emotional vomit. I didn't look at it as a coup, but I also didn't look at it as just like, oh, there was just just a coming together, no different than a flash mob. It was nothing to take serious. Because if they bolt like that, then they bolt to pack something too. Just saying. Was it the same thing as a coup? No. Was it the same thing as a planned and strategic takeover? No. But it wasn't nothing to sneeze at either, because this is technically, January 6th technically is a crime. And January 6th technically can be seen as an insurrection. Now, do I think that the United States was in any jeopardy of being taken over by the January 6th people? Of course not. Come on now, come on. I mean, the Uvalde shooter was more strategic than these motherfuckers. Like, come on. Of course not. But I'm also not going to infantilize white folks when they act badly. I'm also not going to dismiss white folks' actions. We talk about it all the time when these white folks start doing the mass shooting, and then white media comes out and says, oh, it was mental health. Oh, they were upset. Oh, it's affluence. They're just too rich to know any better. I'm not playing that shit either. Because if them folks tried January 6th at my door, it'd be a problem. I would have not taken it lightly. But no, I did not think that national security was in dire threat. No, I don't think that either. Now, putting that aside, what are MAGA hats and QAnon and the Proud Boys known for? Are they known for mutual aid? Are they known for standing in solidarity with workers? Are they known for pushing the culture left, pushing the culture socialist, pushing the culture towards evolution? Are they known for that? Has the MAGA hats, QAnon, Proud Boys ever said anything slightly can be seen as a compliment towards figures like Nkrumah Torre, Lenin, Frantz Fanon? Like, you can stop me if you want to. Fidel Castro, Che Guevara. Like, has they said anything? Mao, anything that said, you know what? This capitalist system ain't working for us. That hence why, the Rust Belt is the Rust Belt. This capitalism hasn't been working for us, hence why the 2008 mortgage crisis. Like, this capitalism shit hasn't been working for us, hence why the pay has went low, but it hasn't kept up with inflation and the cost of living. Like, what's going on here? No, not at all. If anything, they turned their slogan into a grift, turned it into a cult. That's what they have been able to accomplish. Nothing, not even a strand of something that looks like a leftist idea from that side of the argument. So when I heard MAGA communism, I was like, so we're just going to do the Bonapartism thing, right? Which Bonapartism is basically Napoleon from France. He was good at politics because he was able to not only be an imperialist, but also he was able to bring the quote unquote left of Europe, in particular France, and the right. This is the monarchy, this is the maritime bourgeois, so those who made good money off of slavery trade off of exploitation of raw resources in Africa and other colonized places. He was able to bring both sides, a working class, the ones who were stuck in the factories, the ones who were poor, the ones who were exploited in France, and those who were making good money off of the exploitation of the workers in the factories because they owned the factories, as well as they owned the raw resources that they were extracting from, let's say, Africa. Let's say this is ivory. Let's say this is ebony. Let's say this is just natural resources that come from Africa. Like, think about it. And actually, you can read about it because it's like historically documented. Like, this is from the actual transatlantic slave trade. So, like, definitely go read about it. I would definitely start off with The World and Africa by W.E.B. Du Bois. And we're going to get into reading and communism and literature of leftists and how these leftists love saying that they leftists, but they don't want to read. Like, ¿qué pasó? You don't want to read, but you will. Okay. We're going to get that later on in the video. So, Napoleon was good at drawing both sides of the argument together so they can bring both sides right. Now, when it came to the bourgeois and the monarch, they were already right? Just as like Fox News and right-wingers, they tend to already have the money because they like the status quo. They own the factories. They own the raw materials. They are the exploiters. So of course, they want the system to be as is. Those who said that they were leftists or they leaned left on ideas, those tend to be the workers, the subjugated, the exploited, the oppressed, not just the factory workers, but also those in Africa who were colonized, who were literally used as slaves or who were murdered in the process of being exploited as slaves. But nonetheless, both sides, factory workers and the colonized, had an equal interest in destroying and eliminating the system. And that is what made them left. Whereas the bourgeois and the monarch, they like the system of extracting and wealth hoarding. Like, duh, they wanted to keep it as is. Napoleon was good at making it seem as if it's not left, it's not right, it's us as French people. We believe in liberty, equality, brotherhood, and that's something that we all can believe in, whether you're a leftist, whether you're a rightist. We can all believe in the same principles and hence work together. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar in the ways of Andrew Yang? Not left, not right, but forward. Bonapartism. It's not left, it's not right, it's egalitarian, it's fraternity, it's liberty, it's France. And what happened? Brought the left right, didn't bring the right left, and the system perpetuated itself. In today's terms, those who flipped left and went right would be considered the liberals and the PMCs of today's time. Incrementalism, small steps, reform. Let's ponder, let's hypothesize, let's have stimulating conversation as if people ain't really dying because they're really poor. Let's ponder, let's debate, let's theorize, but let's not change. Let's not revolution. Bringing it back to MAGA, or shall I say Maga Communism, those who are promoting that rhetoric, who's the only media platform giving them that prime time attention? The Fox News and the likes. Why is that? Why is that? Same thing why Napoleon was able to bring the left and the right with, oh, it's not leftist issues. It's not about the exploitation. It's not about the wealth hoarding. No, it's about liberty, egalitarian, and all this other Okay, but what about the material condition? No. Don't focus on material conditions. Let's focus on these lofty ideas. Let's philosophicalize our asses instead of actually dealing with the current times. Bringing it back to Maga Communism. Who's the only one giving them airplay? It's the Fox News, the right wingers. The same Fox News who brag about how Cuba is a failure state, Venezuela is a failure state, how China can't be trusted, and how the Russians want to do a communist takeover. These are the people who push the propaganda of the state. These are the people who push the propaganda of capitalism. These are the people who push the propaganda of war and wealth extraction. These are the people who use racism and sexism, pin worker against worker, hate the immigrants. The immigrants are taking all our jobs. But let's not talk about foreign policies that ruin native people in their native homes, privatize public common goods, pushes foreign people, natives off their lands, destroys their livelihoods and their ways of life. The only way that they can make something of a living is if they flee their home to come to another country to do jobs that people in that native country think is beneath them. I don't see too many Americans signing up to do agriculture work. I don't see too many Americans signing up to do janitorial. I don't see too many Americans signing up to do nursing home work. But let Fox News tell it, they taking up all the six-figure jobs. They taking up all the benefits. They buying all the motherfucking six-story buildings. Like, they coming over and they just buying everything. Let them tell it. Let them tell. Let's not talk about foreign policy. Let's not talk about NAFTA. Let's not talk about any of these legitimate material conditions now. Let's talk about how these dirty Mexicans keep hopping the border to take our jobs. The same good paying jobs that the Rust Belt formerly knew, right? Pitting worker against worker, people against people. That's what they're good for, Fox News. That's what they are known for, Fox News. Their head propagandist in charge, Tucker Carlson. That's what he is known for. This is not hyperbole. This is not my ideas. This is not my thinking. He's called foreign people. He has called people of color primates, has advocated for the bombing of Middle Eastern people, Middle Eastern regions into the Stone Age. He has been the most debaucherous media figurehead there is. And if he's not the most, he's definitely top 5. And all 5 lean right. But Tucker Carlson is interested in Maga Communism.
And now, what if rabbits bred at the rate that Tucker Carlson said something racist?
Black Lives Matter is far more ambitious than that. It is working to remake the country and then to control it. It has single-handedly revised our moral framework. Consider some of the other positions Black Lives Matter has endorsed: the repeal of all immigration restrictions, the legalization of sex work, prostitution, the destruction of the nuclear family, your family, the forced reallocation of farmland, the centuries-old civilization tumbling down around them. Black Lives Matter believes in force. They flood the streets with angry young people who break things, and they hurt anyone who gets in the way. When they want something, they take it. Make them mad, and they will set your business on fire. Annoy them, and they will occupy your downtown and declare a brand new country.
Rock is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate primitive monkeys. Typical whining from a black politician about how you don't like me because I'm black, using racism as a defense, right? I catch you doing something that, you're a racist. The Congressional Black Caucus exists to blame the white man for everything. And I'm happy to say that in public because it's true. Everybody knows it's true. White men have, they've contributed some, I would say, like creating civilization and stuff. I think they've done a pretty, I don't know, whatever. I still can't get over, Obama saying they're not gonna, they're gonna attack me because I'm black. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, that is so low to say something like that.
Well, see, Tucker, here's
when everybody knows that Barack Obama would still be in the state Senate in Illinois if he were white.
Hey, Tucker, Obama would kick your ass playing basketball.
Yeah, of course he would. Play basketball? Come on.
He's black. Say it. He's a real brother. Hey, do you think?
I don't know how black he is, but I'm sure he's a good basketball player. He says he is, anyway.
I've been watching Obama's wife. Is it Michelle?
Michelle, yeah. Oh.
It seems like they might have her on. They might be whitening her a little bit. What do you think?
I tell you what. Yesterday she got ghetto and started snapping her neck. I'm like, that's a real sister right there.
No, she needs to do less of that, man. People in Indiana,
yeah,
Pennsylvania.
She's going to be a problem for him. She's got an edge to her that's bad.
Yeah, I agree.
People expressing their opinions in America, that's bad.
Yeah, she starts getting that. She starts getting that.
I'm not attacking her personally. I'm just saying, as a public figure, you just get the feeling she's got a major chip on her shoulder.
Not like that.
There's some really good, immigrants. I just think it's, people who come to this country ought to have something to offer. Be hot, be really smart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You just need
desirable.
Exactly. Hot or smart, and that's
hot
about
or
it.
Smart, that's right. But people to come over and pick lettuce, I'm not saying that's an undignified, that's great, and I admire people who work hard, but on the other hand, are those people who are going to build, a stronger country 20 years from now?
How could you salvage Iraq at this point?
I don't, it's beyond our control. If somehow the Iraqis decided to behave like human beings or something.
But I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use toilet paper or forks.
And the way they treat women, I agree with you. Their culture is, but you're in their homeland, and you're over there as an American who they hate, and they want nothing more than the Americans off of their soil. So they're not going to play games.
They can just shut the f*** up and obey, is my view.
Well, it's never going to be a civilized country because the people aren't civilized.
He'd need to say, look, I'm a bigot, okay? I'm a bigot. I don't like Islamic extremists. Like, if you are really heavily into Islam, I'm sorry, I don't care for you that much. And I don't care what that sounds like. You can call me a racist. You can come where the fuck you want.
And at this juncture, you could say that and not catch a lot of shit for it.
You certainly could. I'd vote for you if you said that.
Basically, we need a racist president. We need to get these Mexicans out here into Islam. Let's kill all the Muslims.
Well, I kind of think, I think you're on to something. Not someone who's like a Klansman or anything, but someone who's totally unbound by PC rules. So we'll just say whatever the hell he wants.
Our leaders demand that you shut up and accept this. We have a moral obligation to admit the world's poor, they tell us, even if it makes our own country poorer and dirtier and more divided.
By the way, women hate you when they do you wrong and you put up with it.
Yes. Exactly.
Because they hate weakness. They're like dogs that way. They can smell it on you and they have contempt for it. They'll bite you. I love women, but they're extremely primitive. They're basic. They're not that hard to understand. And one of the things they hate more than anything is weakness in a man. Do you run into Martha Stewart in the hallway over there?
No. Alexis Stewart, we run into her all the time.
She seems awful.
Yeah, she is awful.
They're very T.
She seems extremely.
I like to hear that word out of. Oh yeah, I stepped over him. She seems what? Now go ahead.
She just does seem a little Yeah, I mean, you said it. I'm just agreeing with you. I don't use that word because
right. I'd love for Tucker Carlson tonight on MSNBC. A girl that comes across kind of
Well, she does. I mean, I heard her. Now I'm a Brent fan, so okay, I'm stating my bias right out front here. But I heard her on with him, and I just wanted to give her the spanking she so
I actually want.
I gotta be honest with you, I don't like her, and I wouldn't vote to confirm her if I were a U.S. Senator, but I do feel sorry for her in that way. I feel sorry for unattractive women. I mean, there's nothing they did, you know?
I mean,
nobody deserves that, and men are just mean.
Yeah, well, she could certainly, shape it up a little bit. I mean, lose 10 or 15 pounds, get a tan, fix those teeth.
It's just absolutely fundamental. Physically, the problems are
this woman,
fundamental. She's never going to be an attractive.
Let's talk.
I'm glad you brought that up, Tucker, because I meant to tell you, is no matter how much somebody disagrees with you, I thought it was absolutely disgusting that Ariana Huffington attacked your father.
Oh my God, she's a pig.
What
happened? And the funny thing is, I've known her for a long time, and knew her husband and everything, and I could have a lot to say about that, actually.
You want to Sarah Palin?
You want to talk
there's that. There is that. I'll agree with that.
Putting Paris and Brittany in a commercial with Obama is classic old school miscegenation, old South.
Uncle Tom.
It's old South. These two young white girls are going to be dating a black man.
So they're trying to say that he's coming for your pristine white daughters by putting two of the biggest white whores in America.
Subliminally.
So I'm just reading the story, trying to figure out how to get it into our show tonight about the kid, the 13-year-old who was, I guess, molested, they're saying, by his teacher, who had sex with him 28 times in 1 week. Yes. She slept with this kid 28 times in 1 week. Now, I ask you...
In 1 week?
You have a lot of experience. You've been around, right? Could you do that?
Could I sleep with well, not a kid, but can I sleep with a woman?
Could you sleep with a 165-pound woman 28 times in 1 week? Are you physically capable of doing that, or do you take your hat off to this kid?
Yeah, this kid should get like a Nobel Peace Prize.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom, anyway.
Study after study has shown that when men make less than women, women generally don't want to marry them. Over big populations, this causes a drop in marriage, a spike in out-of-wedlock births, and all the familiar disasters that inevitably follow. More drug and alcohol abuse, higher incarceration rates, fewer families formed in the next generation.
I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use toilet paper or forks.
Hey, and the way they treat women, I agree with you. Their culture is, but you're in their homeland, and you're over there as an American who they hate, and they want nothing more than the Americans off of their soil. So they're not going to play games.
They can just shut the fuck up and obey, is my view.
How could you salvage Iraq at this point?
I don't, it's beyond our control. I mean, if somehow the Iraqis decided to behave like human beings or something.
He'd need to say, look, I'm a bigot, okay? I'm a bigot. I don't like Islamic extremists. Like, if you are really heavily into Islam, I'm sorry, I don't care for you that much. And I don't care what that sounds like. You can call me a racist. You can come whatever the fuck you want.
And at this juncture, you could say that and not catch a lot of shit for it.
You certainly could. I'd vote for you if you said that.
White men have, they've contributed some, I would say. Like creating civilization and stuff. I think they've done a pretty, I don't know, whatever.
Obama would kick your ass playing basketball.
Yeah, of course he would. Play basketball, come on.
He's black, say it. He's a real brother. Hey, do you think
I don't know how black he is.
How is he black, for one thing? He has one white parent, one black parent. So that makes him, why isn't he white? There's some really good, immigrants. I just think it's, You know, people who come to this country ought to have something to offer. Be hot, be really smart. You know what I mean?
Tucker Carlson likes to brand himself as a real man of the people.
Politicians, big business, the media, they are all on the same side.
Taking on the liberal elite.
Now Democrats have become the party of the elite professional class.
And standing up for everyday Americans.
It's not a left-right thing. It's a ruling class versus everybody else thing.
He wrote a whole book about how America's selfish ruling class is bringing the country to the brink of revolution.
Division helps them maintain their power, even as it destroys our country.
The Atlantic even called him the bow-tied bard of populism.
The actual problem is the corrupt and decadent leadership of our own elites. The elites, liberal elites. It is sickening, and we've had enough of it.
There's just one problem with Tucker's man of the people shtick.
You're about the most unordinary person I know. You're an elitist. You're an asshole.
No. But see, I'm an out of the closet elitist. I don't run around pretending to be a man of the people. I'm absolutely not a man of the people at all.
Yeah. Tucker's full name is Tucker Swanson McNear Carlson. His stepmom is the heiress to the Swanson frozen food empire. He went to an elite boarding school in Rhode Island, got famous for wearing bow ties on national television, and has spent his professional career bouncing between cushy cable news jobs. By all measures, Tucker Carlson is a member of the American elite.
How do you pay your bills?
Well, I'm extraordinarily loaded just from money I, inherited.
You're a trust fund baby, are you not?
No, completely. I've never needed to work. I mean, it's all just the whole cable news thing. It was like a phase I was going through.
So what is going on here? Why would a guy who bragged about being an out-of-the-closet elitist host a show where he rails against the ruling class? There's actually a pretty simple explanation for Tucker's new shtick, and it's called false consciousness.
But see, I'm an out-of-the-closet elitist. I don't run around pretending to be a man of the people.
The elites, to whom the rest of us mere plebes look on in awe.
I'm absolutely not a man of the people at all.
False consciousness is one of those phrases that grad students use to sound smart at parties. But essentially, it's a term in Marxist theory that describes when working class people are tricked into accepting their exploitation. So let's say you and your coworkers are feeling frustrated and start thinking of forming a union. To stop you, your boss might say,
"You don't need a union. The real problem is all these women taking maternity leave. If they weren't taking so much time off, we'd all be able to go home right now."
Or they might say,
"It's these damn privileged millennials. They're so obsessed with work-life balance that we all have to pick up the slack. Get mad at them."
The boss convinces the workers to accept their exploitation by pointing their anger in the wrong direction. Or as Tucker Carlson would say,
one thing you learn when you grow up in a castle and look out across the moat every day at the hungry peasants out in the village is you don't want to stoke envy among the proletariat.
Thanks, Tucker. So how do you keep the hungry peasants in the village from storming the castle? Enter Tucker Carlson Tonight.
The show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink.
Since it launched in 2016, Tucker's show has been a festival of false consciousness, bombarding viewers with an endless supply of culture war bullshit.
Could transracial be the new transgender? What's upsetting about lady-specific Doritos? If yoga is racist, is hot yoga more racist?
To be fair, this isn't unique to Tucker. Fox News' MO is using culture war stories to distract from right-wing economics. But what makes Tucker unique is how often he uses the language of anti-elitism while ignoring real exploitation. Take the 2017 Republican tax cuts, for example.
It's the largest tax cut in the history of our country, and reform.
Republicans spent months promising their tax cuts would help the middle class, including during several segments on Tucker's show.
This is really about a middle-income tax cut.
Okay.
That, of course, turned out to be a scam. The overwhelming majority of those tax cuts went to corporate shareholders and CEOs.
They give away to the very rich permanent tax cuts for corporations and almost nothing for the average person.
So what was Tucker Carlson, populist hero, talking about the week that happened?
Racist trees. In Palm Springs, California, city officials are planning to clear cut a grove of tamarisk trees because they're racist.
Ah, yes. Racist trees.
I'm willing to believe you that there was racist intent in planting these trees. Why are we punishing the trees for that?
Tucker spent twice as long talking about this random tree story as he did about the tax cuts.
Does that seem a little unfair? If you were a tree, you might feel a little differently.
This is false consciousness in action. Convince workers to focus their rage at targets that don't matter.
Racist trees.
And they'll be too distracted to notice the ones that do.
That they give away to the very rich.
Don't want to stoke envy.
Tucker does this all the time. Last May, Congress rolled back regulations meant to stop Wall Street from creating another financial crisis.
The financial institutions spent $200 million in lobbying.
This is the kind of thing real populists hate.
Big money rules and the needs of ordinary people gets ignored.
But Tucker didn't mention the rollback once. Instead, he was dedicating multiple segments to a random dude who refused to move out of his parents' house, which Carlson saw as proof that millennials were too entitled.
I think that probably does have something to do with the safe space movement.
So just to recap, instead of talking about bank deregulation, we got one multimillionaire complaining to another multimillionaire about how millennials are too entitled. False consciousness.
Amazing the country this is becoming. We're dedicated to chronicling it for you in all detail.
Last February, Trump made it easier for lenders to give out predatory payday loans, which trap working class people in cycles of debt they can't get out of.
Many of these loans have interest rates of 400%.
The move was a huge win for predatory lenders, who Democrats have been trying to regulate for years.
This is a lobby that's extraordinarily powerful. They have members, and the members want results.
But Tucker didn't mention the move once. Instead, he spent the week blaming Democrats for focusing on identity politics.
Elections in this country used to be based on issues, or that was the common agreement anyway. The left is too distracted by global warming or the lack of transgender SEAL teams to pay any attention.
You spent 3 days on the racist tree story. False consciousness. Okay, last one. In May, House Republicans passed huge cuts to Medicare and Medicaid.
This bill cuts taxes for massively high-income people by hundreds of billions and cuts the health care of low and middle-income Americans by hundreds of billions.
If there was ever a time to get mad at the elite, this was it.
I think this is one of the largest pure redistributions from poor to rich in one bill we've ever seen.
But Tucker Swanson Carlson treated the whole thing like a big joke.
The left has had a full psychotic break.
Then he turned to the stories that really matter. Atheists getting rid of a park bench in Pennsylvania, Michael Moore saying something mean about Trump, and a random academic paper suggesting we should eat bug meat.
When Al Gore starts serving crickets for lunch on his private jet, I'm in.
The largest redistribution from poor to rich we've ever seen.
Don't want to stoke envy.
The goal of Tucker's show isn't to challenge the elite. It's to make sure you never realize who they are. To get you so mad at atheists, feminists, immigrants, millennials, trans people, college students, pot smokers, vegans, the NFL, Brooklyn witches, and Lena fucking Dunham that you don't get mad at the people who are actually in charge.
If you care about America, you ought to oppose the exploitation of Americans. For now, those leaders will have to be Republicans. There's no option at this point.
Tucker Carlson isn't a populist. He's a safety valve. A way to make sure that if the hungry peasants in the village get angry, they don't take it out on the party giving tax cuts to him or his multi-billionaire boss.
You're his bitch.
I'm 100% his bitch. Whatever Mr. Murdoch says, I do. I would be honored if he would cane me the way I cane my workers, my servants.
He's a phony. And if that sounds harsh, don't take it from me. Take it from Tucker Carlson. In 2003, talking about Bill O'Reilly, the man whose Fox News slot he would one day take over.
I think there's kind of a deep phoniness at the center of his shtick, because it's sort of built on this perception that he is the character he plays. He is every man, this kind of, he's not right-wing, he's a populist, fighting for you against the powers that be. And that's great as a shtick, but I'm just saying the moment that it's revealed not to be true, it's over, right? Because the whole thing is predicated on the fact that he is who he says he is, and just nobody is that person, especially not someone who makes $1 million, or many millions a year.
A couple of days ago, Tucker Carlson, Fox News propagandist, ran a kind of strange out-of-place commentary on his show where he vaguely referred to his college yearbooks and people like Jeff Bezos looking for dirt on Tucker Carlson. And it was weird because it was just out of context. It seemed to have nothing to do with what was going on Tucker's show. And it raised the question of whether Tucker Carlson was trying to get ahead of a maybe embarrassing or problematic story. So let's start by taking a look at that. This is the clip from a couple of nights ago, just kind of out of nowhere. We don't know what this was about.
Before we go tonight, a quick piece of news from the world of big tech. We spent the day hearing from quite a few old college classmates, in some cases people we've been out of touch with for 30 years. It was nice, but here was the occasion for it. Jeff Bezos had one of his minions, a mentally unbalanced middle-aged man called Eric Wempel, pull our dusty college yearbook and call around to see if we'd done anything naughty at the age of 19. That sounds like fun. Let us know if you hear any good stories. But before Bezos drops any more of his billions on opposition research, you should know that it will not affect any election outcome. This is a news show. It's not a political campaign. No one here is running for anything or plans to. On the other hand, if Jeff Bezos wants to come over to reminisce about 1987 on this show, he's always welcome, anytime.
Sort of a strange story in a vacuum. But then yesterday, it all starts to become much clearer. An image purporting to be Tucker Carlson's college yearbook entry from Trinity College in 1991 mentions that Tucker was part of a number of groups, including the Christian Fellowship, okay, the Jesse Helms Foundation, and something called the Dan White Society. Now, for those wondering whether this is even a real image, Trinity College has confirmed that this is their real 1991 yearbook. Tucker's entry is on page 186. There is no question about it being real. And this started to raise some questions because the Dan White Society references Dan White. Dan White was a guy who killed San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk, California's first openly gay elected official in 1978. Dan White was a horrible person, a disgustingly violent, homophobic person. And so when you look at Tucker's yearbook and it says Dan White Society, that's starting to look not so good. And then our longtime friend Jeremy Hooper did some more research into this and found a 1990 op-ed by Tucker Carlson in his college newspaper where he calls homosexuality, quote, unnatural and unhealthy. And it is signed TSM Carlson. And indeed, Jeremy confirmed that Tucker Carlson is the only possible student with those initials at that time. It also appears, as Jeremy Hooper points out on Twitter, that this is the only thing Tucker ever wrote in the newspaper, meaning it's not that Tucker was a regular columnist and it just so happened that one day he wrote about unnatural gay people. He went out of his way to write one column one time about his displeasure with the fact that gay people exist. Now, to me, this is less about whether Tucker Carlson was homophobic in 1990 or 1991 as a sort of potential disqualifier for Tucker to do whatever today. First of all, there's tons of people that are homophobic. Secondly, I don't think being homophobic is considered a problem for Fox News hosts. It may be a feature more than it is a bug. And third, most importantly, in theory, Tucker's views may have changed over the last 30 years. I have views that are different today than they were 30 years ago. And much like I would say about anyone, if these were Tucker's views 30 years ago, and they appear to be, it doesn't necessarily tell us how his views are today. Many of my views have changed, although I was never anti-gay. It's more about the strange nature of how Tucker ended up getting into this story earlier this week, doing this bizarre proactive segment to attack Jeff Bezos and to say people are looking for dirt. It's just all very strange. Now, that being said, yeah, Tucker's heroes in college were really disturbing. It's not just that of the three groups he mentions, one seems to be an adoration of the guy who killed Harvey Milk for being gay. That's horrifying. He also shouts out Jesse Helms. Jesse Helms used to be a senator who opposed the Civil Rights Act, opposed the Voting Rights Act, called the Civil Rights Act dangerous, and on and on. If these were Tucker's heroes then, I'd be curious as to who his heroes are today. It's really horrible stuff. I don't expect much more to come of it. You know, anybody, he should be fired from Fox News. Yeah, right. Even if Fox News doesn't see this as a feature, it's not going to cause a problem for Tucker on Fox News. But
the same man who says China is a dictatorial state with its communism, and Russia is trying to take over the world with its communism, and Cuba a failed state. They're trying to, but now all of a sudden he got time for Maga Communism. Peep game, peep game, peep game. So obviously leftists wasn't with the shits. Those who actually read and don't just say, oh, I'm communist. Oh, I'm a socialist. I'm just picking these titles like they're badges, like they're stickers. No different than the Democrats or those who consider themselves Democrats. Black Lives Matter signs, but also NIMBY. Ooh, not in my backyard. Ooh, no, not really. Equity, inclusion, diversity, but ooh, not in my backyard. Ooh, can't bring that shit here. Kids deserve good education, good neighborhood, but ooh, you can't bust your kids into my neighborhood. I don't want that influence around my kids. The hypocrisy. Yeah. So even them folks, And we all know these liberal hoes treat being an ally like a badge of honor. Like being a decent human being is a competition. Like you deserve a badge, like you deserve an award for that. Like, look at me. I could have oppressed you, but I chose not to. Plot twist, microaggression. You know, we all know they are good for those virtue signals. We all know they love to allyship and I'm in camaraderie and this, that, and the third. But in reality, in practicality, not just in verbal, but in action, they are nowhere to be found. And these white liberal hoes, the ones with all types of degrees, the ones who eat all types of ethnic food, the ones who go to all types of countries to gentrify, the ones who talk about solidarity in theory, but not in practicality. Even them hoes wasn't fucking with no Maga Communism. And supposedly, they lean somewhat left with the pinky toe on Tuesdays during a full moon every other leap year. But the only ones who tend to be fucking with it is the right wingers. Shocking. But when you go into the safe spaces of these right wingers like Truth Social and other social media platforms that are dedicated to right wing ideals, they shit on MAGA communism. They not fucking with it. They don't like communism. They actually said a good commie is a dead commie. That's some shit you heard during the Vietnam War, bitch. That's before my time. I wasn't alive during that. But they're still holding on to those ideals. And I'm pretty sure those users who are saying that rhetoric about communists and communism, they're around my age. I'm pretty sure they were not alive during the Vietnam War. We know boomers ain't great with the technology. We know boomers just figured out how Facebook and YouTube work. They're not out here branding and expanding their application usage. They don't know shit about shit. But they're still using the same rhetoric, the same Red Scare rhetoric, the same violent rhetoric. I mean, damn, there's nothing more violent than a good commie is a dead commie. Like, what the fuck? So they're willing to bang and take life for their rhetoric. They're saying like they don't fuck with communism. Communism is not a concept that they believe in. It's capitalism, and that's that Asian shit. Like they just shitting on the idea. Shitting on it. Which I'm not surprised. I expected that out of them. But those who are pushing MAGA communism, they're trying to push it down the throats of leftists. They said the reason why that we can't align with those who have right-wing rhetoric is because we leftists, we're so controlling. We're so demanding, that we have so many barriers, that we are very prudish with our belief systems, that we have so much of this performative, like you have to know the language, you have to read the books, that you have such these high expectations and standards. They try to make it seem like we leftists was fucked up for saying, nah, we not fucking with that commie MAGA shit. Like, we not fucking with that. Like, that's not us. And then when they try to sell it to the right wing, it was them who rejected it to a violent extent. Not us leftists who were just like, nah, we're not fucking with that. That's just dumb. We ain't said no, a good fascist is a dead fascist. We ain't saying that shit like that. We didn't say a good Nazi is a dead Nazi. We said punch a Nazi in the face. They said a good commie is a dead commie. So we're not even talking the same level of physical attack. Let's be clear. So the right wingers ain't fucking with it. And you have to ask yourself, was MAGA communism even for leftists to begin with? Because leftists wasn't asking for this shit. Leftists wasn't fucking with that MAGA shit. Leftists been on that anti-MAGA shit. Some tried to convert. I'm not that person. I don't give a fuck to deal with any reactionaries, to be honest with you. Whether it's political, whether it's black nationalist, I don't have time to do reactionary. I'm very secular and I'm very rational based, evidence based, scientific based. It has to make sense. This is why religion to me is just such a comedic experience for me at this point in my own personal development, because I understand how that is based in reaction. It's a reactionary engagement. And because I know how Christianity was super implanted on Black people, Calvinism, through Protestantism, through chattel slavery, through white supremacy. So I understand how all of these are integrated and intermingled. So when I see people perform religion, I look at it in the same comedic relief as if we, the audience, are watching a Netflix show, because it's all reactionary and it's all theater in my point of view. I look at it the same way with the Maga Communism shit. It's reactionary. I don't engage in reactionary shit. But back on to people claiming to be leftists who don't actually read leftist shit. Reactionary. How many of these MAGA hats, how many of these QAnons, how many of these Proud Boys, how many of them motherfuckers actually read their precious, precious King James Bible? Cover to cover, verse to verse, chapter to chapter. How many of them actually do that shit? I'm pretty sure they are more of a loyal viewer of fill in the blank. Whether it's a Marvel flick, whether it's, what's that shit? Game of Thrones, whether it's whatever the fuck. I'm pretty sure they are more of a loyal, pious follower of scripted television than they are with their own scripture. Ha! The gag. And most religious folks, especially Christians, are very fucking reactionary, very fucking delusional, and no different than the MAGA hats, and no different than people trying to push off this MAGA communism bullshit, all reactionary, not based in theory, not based in dialectics, not based in anything. But then again, what do I expect from folks who think like having standards is a poo-poo thing? What do I expect from people like that? People who don't want to read, so they don't know if they are reinventing the wheel. They don't know how to strategize and take other people's work, for example, Torah, and build upon that because they already read the material, right? You don't want to build on the shoulders of legends and icons. No, you just want to come in and put your own little sprinkle and your own little parsley and salt bay it up, as if these thoughts weren't already had, as if these conversations weren't already had, as if people didn't already write what is and what is not. That's like playing basketball with your own rules and everybody else playing basketball with their own rules. If that's the case, then basketball ain't basketball. It's just a ball. It's just a game involving a ball. And depending on your version of basketball, it may not even involve a ball. So if that's the case, then what the fuck is basketball? The same example can be attached to these leftists who don't like to read. And that shit is very baffling to me. Because that means you are solely based on reactions and emotions because you have no literature to ground you. You have no background knowledge. That's very scary to me. And then to promote leftism, but don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. And no, not everything is written in stone, hence why I said build upon the shoulders of legends. Not everything that they said can apply to today. A lot of them lived in a time where Wi-Fi wasn't even a thing. So, like, of course, not everything is going to parallel with today's reality. But you're telling me that you ain't reading jack shit, but then promoting leftism? So when people actually question you about leftist rhetoric, you can't even base them on material dialectics. You can't even base them on rhetoric and analysis and even debate because you don't know. So you may have started off good, where it's like, and I agree, you shouldn't be like, this is communism, I'm going to convert you to communism. Like, no. Bitch, I'm clocking in. Bitch, I want to do my job. Leave me alone. Like, I get it. So, like, that's definitely not the angle to come at it. But if you start talking about the material conditions, you start talking about work, you start talking about work co-ops, and then they start asking you about communism, socialism, they want to decolonize their minds. If the only thing that you can talk to them about capitalism and worker exploitation and wealth extraction is, oh, these jobs are trash and these bosses are overworking us and ain't paying us, then how can you decolonize their minds when it comes to what is actually capitalism? What is actually socialism? What is the benefits of that? What is class struggle? How can you even talk about more deeper conversations when you're as deep as these jobs suck and we need a union, we need a work co-op, which is true. But that's not the end all be all when it comes to material analysis. And if you don't know what that is, at best, you're halfway doing the job of left propaganda. And at worst, you're being Bonapartist because you're going to end up not being able to answer the question correctly or being able to base it in facts. So you're going to be reactionary and then put in your own opinions or ideas, not tested, not verified, not factual, but your own opinions and your own reactionary sentiments. And next thing you know, yes, you were right when speaking about worker solidarity, but you were wrong when it came to understanding dialectics. And you need both. You need both. You need both. You need to know theory, and you actually need to know how you can convert theory into practical, digestible understanding for the workers. Like, duh. And if you can't do that, then bitch, you're only leading them halfway, and then you putting them in a position to get got by shysters promote rhetoric such as Maga Communism. There's a reason why I started off with Napoleon, and I started off with France, and I started off with the workers. And there's a reason why I did all that. To give you a better and concise image of capitalism. Then I drew it back to modern conversations about MAGA communism. And then I connected that to the overall population. You have to be able to do that to convert people into leftist ideas. But if you don't know, then you're only doing the job halfway at best. And you're only setting these folks up to be misled and yourself. It's utter mayhem, and it's about eventually to the right. You have to read. And the good thing about today's world as opposed to yesteryear, we got ebooks. No real excuse. We got libraries. Ain't no real excuse. Hell, you could do Audible. They give out free trials all the time. And depending on your library, you can actually get audiobooks for the free at your library. Like, they really ain't no excuse for you not to be reading out in these streets. Like, deadass. And at the very least, it will just broaden your understanding of how systems work and your vocabulary. Like, there's really no excuse. So it's very weird to me how these leftists will be out here like, I didn't read Marxists, I didn't read Leninists, I don't read anything about leftists, I don't know any theory. Just the bosses are bad, we need to own, we need to have power. Okay, how do we put that into concise dialectic material understanding? And then how do we act upon that in a tangible way? Whether we're talking about housing, whether we're talking about food insecurity, whether we're talking about workers taking power at the workplace, how do we do that? If all you know is bosses are bad, workers need more power. Which is all true. But then what? Because when you don't flesh out those ideas and you don't read, what you tend to get is what you see in the black sector. Umar Johnson, who's a scammer now, a troll now, but he originally was talking that black power shit. He was originally talking about having your own land, being resourceful, being a community. Now look at him. No different than the ADOS movement. It started off as a critique of capitalism. Then it turned into a critique of the Democratic Party, and then possibly aligning with the Republicans. Again, right-leaning. Started talking about real shit. Started talking about capitalism ain't working for us like that. Democrats ain't working with us like that. Then it veered off to right-wing bullshit. Then it became a critique of immigrants, not immigration policies, not foreign affairs, but just the immigrants who are fleeing with their fucking lives, bitch. Let's stomp on them. Let's turn it into immigrants versus Black Americans. And again, the hysteria, the reactionary belief of they're taking all these good jobs away from Black people, as if Black people got good jobs to begin with. We started off as slaves, then we ended up in the service sector. And you know, like I know, service sector work don't pay. It never paid. It never has paid. It never will pay because the capitalists don't want to pay. And there isn't a movement to make them pay. So they're not paying, whether it's CNA, whether it's cashier, whether it's daycare workers. Service jobs don't pay. But you know who happens to occupy the majority of service jobs? Black folks. But let these reactionary right-wingers tell it, oh, it's the immigrants taking all these good jobs away from us. As if we took all the immigrants, shipped them back to wherever the fuck they came from, all of a sudden these jobs would be paying $40 an hour. Reactionary. So then after pitting Black Americans against the immigrants, what happened? Final stage, pitting Black Americans against other fucking Africans, whether it's Africans from Africa, Africans from the Caribbean, Africans from where. Now it's xenophobia. Now it's tribalism. Now it's Black on Black crime, right? Circled all the way back to Black. And it started off as Black. Reactionary. And now all ADOS is known for is trolling Africans and being racist and xenophobic towards Africans while making pleas and copping pleas for white supremacists and this white supremacist system because they want that capitalism. That capitalism is owned by them white folk. So they're fighting for crumbs against foreign Blacks. And then they accuse Blacks from the Caribbean. So like the Jamaicans, the Haitians, the Puerto Ricans, you know, Africans who like plantains. They said that we still in the culture. We're trying to take credit for hip hop, even though hip hop does have Caribbean roots, but they're trying to make it seem like there was no other African influences. Even though South Carolina, there is a town called Africa Town that was started right after the slave trade in the United States. Slavery was still going on, but by a different name. But nonetheless, there's all types of Africa towns. There's all types of connections between African American culture and Africa and just a greater African diaspora. But the ADOS, reactionary as they are, they will dismiss that fact, those facts, to double down on xenophobia, tribalism, otherism, and right-wing rhetoric. Why am I bringing this up? To show how reactionary is. So reactionary that it can be used to weaponize Blacks against other Blacks.
When it comes to our brother Tariq Nasheed, it's less an argument and a difference in ideology, and much more, I think, a function of the deep, the turn from intellectual work that has been caused by the disruptions of everything from technology to the function of just a terrible education system. And now we have a forum, social media, and we're on it now, of course, where everybody can talk all the time. That creates something that we've never had before. These are the arguments that used to be had in around Jimmy and Grace Lee Boggs' kitchen table in Detroit as they're trying to hash out these ideological conversations. But imagine if James and Grace Lee Boggs and CLR James and our dear brother who still walks the earth there in Philadelphia, the great Max Stanford or Muhammad Ahmad, imagine, and Robert Williams, of course, imagine if Mabel Williams, imagine if they had to have this conversation instead of in these small places where they are building and organizing, to the point you raised, brother. Organization is the key. Imagine if they had it on Twitter with hashtags. With all due respect to Yvette Carnell and Tariq Nasheed and everybody else, a little less time on social media and a lot more time in the books and sitting with people and thinking and building in community. So I don't know that these differences are real differences. I think that they are more, and it comes back, I don't know, like say, Brother Zach, the clout chasing, but something you said, Brother Dwayne, I thought was very interesting. Ignorance. I think ignorance is the watchword of not only the ADOS movement, and I'm not saying ignorance as a pejorative, I'm not condemning them, but I'm saying, and let me just say this very quickly as it relates to 1804 and hidden colors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, however many you're going to make. I've never been able to sit through one of them.
So if that can happen, what makes you think that MAGA communism, that isn't even a race-based concept, which means that there's more people from different cultures, different races, different intersectionalities that complete their personhood. So for example, me, I'm Black, I'm woman, I am from the working class, so that contextualizes my worldview, my experience. When it comes to the MAGA communism, there's so many other people with their own different personhoods and pieces of their identity coming into this idea of MAGA communism. So if you think Black reactionary is bad, what do you think MAGA communism will be? When it's a free-for-all for everybody to make their own connections that will always lead them right and base their material critique off of all types of isms, all types of reactionary, and all types of otherizing people, while trying to proclaim they're the victims, that they are righteousness, that their beliefs and philosophies and their theories and their bullshit ass concepts have legitimacy, even when it's based on reactionary beliefs. So MAGA communism is a fail, like duh. But it's also like no shade, but like, tell the truth, shame the devil, saying it with my chest. This is an out for the left, especially the left who are very chummy with the right, especially the left who try to use that tailspin of, oh, we're trying to draw the right left. Oh, we're trying to build alliances. We're trying to build bridges. Oh, we're trying to convert the right wingers. Baby, it's 2022, baby. Baby, we live in Wi-Fi. Baby, we can get a package from the other side of the earth by tomorrow morning, baby. If those right wingers wanted to be flipped left, if they were interested in left philosophies, if they truly wanted to expand their horizons, they would. They would in ways of congregating in Facebook spaces and pages and groups, then finding themselves on Truth Social, then finding themselves in QAnon spaces, and then finding themselves at the Proud Boy spaces, and then finding themselves in January 6th. One can say it's a rabbit hole, but one could say birds of a feather flock together. One could say that we as human beings, we are biased, so we like that bias confirmation. It's not a happenstance. It's not a conundrum. It's not a, oh, gee whiz, we can't solve for X. Why, in these Trump spaces, there tends to be a lot of racists, tend to be a lot of sexists, tend to be a lot of capitalists, like a lot of elitism. Like, it's not by accident. It's by design. So if anybody in these last 2022 months leading into 2023 talk about trying to bring the right left and trying to open up their eyes and trying to convert them, and I just want to talk to these folks, and if I ever get onto Fox News or if I'm on a right-wing platform, what I'm gonna do, yeah. Anybody talking that nonsense, I know what type of time you on. No different than the progressives. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna bring the ruckus and I'm gonna change the party, and the Democrats are gonna be for the people because I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna pull them left. One singular wet behind the ear is going to pull and push a party made up of thousands of people with big rap, big steps, deeply embedded in institutionalized power. Your singular ass is going to be able to pull these dinosaurs to the left. Ain't that right? Is that so? Is that so? Haven't seen it yet, though. They said Nancy Pelosi used to be the old AOC of her time. Is Auntie Nancy that today? They said JFK was trying to bring in a new type of time. Less neocolonialism, maybe not full-blown communism, but more leaning towards social public goods.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell.
This speech did not get very much attention. When a new president is coming to power, as John Kennedy was, the spotlight was not on Dwight Eisenhower.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions.
There was a feeling at the time that this must have been written by some speechwriter who just sneaked into the speech.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
3 months ago, we got contacted by a family up in Minnesota saying that we have documents from Malcolm Moose. He was responsible in part for drafting the military-industrial complex speech.
These new papers give us written evidence that this was not just some caprice of Eisenhower's or something by some speechwriter.
You see the evolution of his speech from May 1959 to 1961.
And he wanted to give this speech for a long time, 2 years.
Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea.
There was one person in Dwight Eisenhower's life whom he really confided almost everything to, and that was his brother Milton.
There's one particular document where the speechwriters had already drafted their version of the speech, only to see Milton come along and totally revamp what had already been written.
When Milton Eisenhower was taking notes and writing things on the drafts of these speeches, the speechwriters knew that it wasn't Milton talking, it was Ike.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
He would see magazines with advertisements for some new warplane or some bomb, and he got so angry he'd take the magazine and throw it into the fireplace of the Oval Office because he felt that defense spending should not be something that would be encouraged by companies who are seeking commercial gain.
We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
There is an interesting document. It shows that the farewell speech would be made to Congress. But yet, President Eisenhower decided no, he was going to address the people.
Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
One test of how well a president speaks is how long the speech lives. Here we are 50 years later, we're still talking about this speech.
Now, on Friday noon, I am to become a private citizen. I am proud to do so. I look forward to it. Thank you, and good night.
And what happened to his dome? Turned into pasta. So anybody telling me this bullshit of, oh, I'm gonna pull people left, I don't believe you. You need more leftist people. Because there's more people who don't vote than actually do vote. And I'm gonna be really honest, saying it with my chest. I'm one of those people who don't fucking vote. So if anything, it'd make more sense to get those who are not even involved in the game, those who are watching it from the fucking sidelines, those who are doing the commentary from the sideline, those who are everyday workers, those who aren't involved in politics intimately. It would make more sense to get us to flip left, because we not leaning left or right. We kind of neutral and disenchanted. So if anything, it would be us, because not only are we the majority base and we not voting, but also we are fresh and open to the ideas of leftist politics, because A, it would improve our material conditions, and B, we're not already sullied, we're not already influenced, we're not already allegianced to either or. We're not Republicans, we're not Democrats. If we are forced to choose a side, then maybe we'll be like, okay, we're right-leaning or we're left-leaning, but in general, we're not watching CNN. We're not watching Fox News. We don't have a dog in the fight because we already know the game is rigged. So it'd make more sense to speak to people like me than it would to be talking to people who are drenched in their fallacies and reactionary, white, fascist, Christian, patriarchal nonsense. Try to undo that fuckery. Than it would be to get on board with people like me who are not caught up in the rapture of nonsense than it would be to get these motherfuckers to listen to what you gotta say, especially from a commie point of view. And in their mind, the commie is already the enemy. In our mind, we don't even know what the fuck a commie is. I know what a commie is, but people like me who don't vote don't know what a fuck a commie is.
The mob is already at its entrance. If they get through here,
So,
they will more easily fan out across the building.
I didn't think I was gonna be that long. I swear to God, I didn't think I was gonna be that long. I thought it was gonna be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, top. But here I am, talking. So those are my points and those are my thoughts on Maga Communism, right-wing rhetoric, Bonapartism, also known as that Andrew Yang shit. Anybody who talks about that, not right, not left, but something else, only trying to pull you to the right, and it's bullshit. Anybody talking about that, oh, I'm going to be that savior, I'm going to be that leader, I'm going to be that example, I'm going to be so different, so different, so extraordinary, so enlightened, such the model leftist representative that when I go onto these right-wing platforms, they will empathize, and their minds will free themselves from those shackles, and they will realize that they were indoctrinated, and then they're going to join the... Fantastical. Fan-fucking-tastical. So anybody talking that bullshit, know that it's bullshit. And if you really want to flip anybody left, first you gotta fucking read. And second, you just gotta be in spaces. Be with everyday people doing everyday shit and communing with them doing that everyday shit. Build relationships. Build common allegiances. Build interest. This ain't no cult. This ain't no motherfucking Jehovah's Witness shit. Like, we ain't knocking on no motherfucking doors and talking about this is salvation. Do you want to go to motherfucking Bible study? This ain't that. This ain't none of that. This is community building. The root word of communism. Commune. To come together. Solidarity. You can't just talk that shit, but you gotta walk that shit. You gotta be in that rhetoric. You just can't theorize your way into community. You gotta verbalize it, but you actually gotta put that action, put that heat behind that. Because communities don't exist in a vacuum and they don't just spring up like the first crops of spring. That's not how that shit happens. It's not how that shit happens. It's work. It's dedication, it's trial and error, it's solidarity, it's showing up and showing out, and it's collective people power. Not top down, definitely not no motherfucking commie MAGA shit, but it is authentic, and it is worthwhile. So, that's all I have to say. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Let me know what y'all think. Did y'all fall for MAGA communism? Is you rocking with that bullshit? Was you? Again, I talk my shit straight from the hip. but I'm not going to judge you. I mean, we do live in very precarious times. So if you thought that sounded good and you thought you was leaning within and now you heard this video, it was like, ooh, child, let me press on the brake. This ain't that. I understand. I'm not going to hold it against you. I didn't wake up out the womb all woke and shit and understand material dialectics. Hell, if you've been a long time subscriber, you know where I started off. So like, we are all ascending. We are all learning. We are all expanding. Like, that's a given. Yes. And no one can hold that against you. But if you descending more than you ascending, if you like, yeah, communism, but then circle around to Maga Communism, then like, no. That ain't it. This ain't that. But if you started off more reactionary and then ended up into these spaces, then welcome. Welcome, as always, welcome. But you're going to have to do that self-analysis and realize what is reactionary and what is rational. And I'm hoping y'all are leaning and standing in rational and not reactional. So you don't end up being a MAGA communist ADOS girl. But I'll see you in the next video. Bye.